Tashitale. Welcome to the AWAM Tibetan Buddhist Institute and our class today, the heart essence of Tibetan Buddhism. And so we begin by taking 3 really deep breaths in and then slowly each one back out again to calm your body and mind. And then we take refuge. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent for the benefit of all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent for the benefit of all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent for the benefit of all sentient beings. So today we are starting with doing refuge vows and bodhisattva vows for any of you who either have not taken that and want to, or if you want to repeat it again, that's fine as well. So the ritual starts out with a brief talk about the meaning of the vows and then listening carefully with the pure motivation of love and kindness. You are taking this vow in order to bring benefit to all sentient beings who are suffering in samsara. So taking refuge, the vows are making a commitment to being a Buddhist, whether religious or secular. From the time of the Buddha, unbroken lineage for over 2,500 years, the blessing of the entire lineage as if it was taken from the Buddha himself. So we imagine that we're receiving that from the Buddha. Everybody else in the process has also taken that refuge as well. So I'll give you a little bit of background information on this. So part of it is that there's actually 4 different levels of refuge. We don't normally use this, but I think it's important to be aware of all of those. The one that we do the most is called the outer refuge. And so this one is taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, just like we repeated at the beginning. And so this includes things like the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, for example. And then there are also the ordained monks and nuns is another level. And then the empowerment or teaching recipient. So if you receive an empowerment with a group of people, then you become a Sangha as a part of that. Or it can be a Sangha like us together for a practice or a class and so forth. So there's all kinds of different possibilities there. Just a local group. So for us, it's not only you that are in the class, but quite a number of people who also come in occasionally for other things like a visit from a lama or something like that. So each of those are considered to be a Sangha and a part of that. The inner level refers to the guru or teacher, the yidam, the dakini, or in some cases, dharmapalas. Dharmapalas are protectors. And so those are sometimes linked together as a series of 3. So the Guru, Yidam, and Dakini. Other times it's the Guru, Yidam, and Protector. And then occasionally it's all 4 of them together at the same time. The secret level of these is the Nirmanakaya, which is the form or physical body, like the historical Buddha. Sambhogakaya, which is considered as various cosmic forms or activities that go on. And so those would be like the yidams that we do practice with. And then also the Dharmakaya, which literally means truth body. And even though he's represented in the same way as a Sambhogakaya here in this picture, It is actually something that is considered to be absolute and transcendent as a part of that. But we use this image of Samattabhadra and Samattabhadri for that purpose on a regular basis. So the fourth level then is considered to be the most secret. This is our innate Buddha nature, something we already have. It's usually said to be in our heart, but it's at that heart center, if you will, the essence. And so that is very important because this is a sense of uncompounded luminosity. We talk about this kind of thing more when we get to Tantra and Dzogchen. It's your inner Buddha. And so sometimes when we're taking refuge, we can take refuge in the sense of our inner Buddha as well. So another thing here as we go through the ritual is to listen with pure motivation to taking this vow, that you are taking the vow to benefit all beings who suffer in samsara. That's a big task to do that, but we do the best that we can. We do it mentally is in that way. And then there are 3 prohibitions associated with taking this vow, things that we're not supposed to do. So having taken refuge in the Buddha, do not denigrate other non-Buddhist deity forms or gods. Okay? So just because we take our vow into certain kinds of things doesn't mean that we denigrate those in other religious traditions. And then having taken the Dharma, do not harm other sentient beings. That can be challenging sometimes, particularly if you get bugs in your house, which I've been having lately. We need to be careful about those things. If at all possible, we don't kill them. What we do is capture them and release them outside and so forth. And then having taken refuge in the Sangha, we do not rely on non-virtuous friends. We have to be careful sometimes because it doesn't mean that somebody who is a non-Buddhist is non-virtuous. They can certainly be virtuous. But there are times when we run into people or meet people, in some cases even have friends who are non-virtuous. And so we need to be cautious about that. There are also what are referred to as 3 prescriptions for this. The first one is respect all symbols of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So that includes things like images, texts, and saffron-robed ones, the monks and nuns, if you will, as a part of that. So we respect all of those. Just a second here, I accidentally hit the button. So we also do not throw away texts and images. You know, sometimes they've been around a long time, they kind of stack up and so forth, but we're not supposed to throw them away, but we can burn them or even recycle them. So if you have something like that that is no longer of use, stick it in the recycle bin. That's okay to do it that way. That kind of tends to spread it out even more. Also, do not walk on or over texts, etc. So that usually refers to an event where everybody's sitting on the floor, and if they don't have little tables or something on which to set something down, you don't set it right on the floor, but you put something down there that it can set on, and you put it on that. But on a break, then sometimes people walk around. It can be kind of crowded and difficult to get around, and so it's very tempting to just step over it. That's another one they're not supposed to do. Ask somebody else to do it, or go ahead. If there's nobody there, pick it up, step over, set it back down again. So the basic idea is showing respect. So there are also 10 moral vows, which we've already talked about in our class, of unwholesome actions to avoid and wholesome actions to engage in. And so these are pairs. So there's one that we're told to avoid, and then the opposite of that as the one to engage in. So we have first set of 3 refer to our body. And so the first one of those is killing. And so we want to avoid killing, and instead of that, we want to protect life. We want to avoid stealing, and instead of that, we want to be generous in our practice. And then the third one is sexual abuse. And here we want to honor sexual vows in respect of others. And then there are 4 that are related to our speech. The first one is related to lying. And so we don't lie, but we speak truth in loving speech. The second one of this set is divisiveness. We want to strive to reconcile or harmonize. And then harsh words, we avoid those and instead use pleasant words. And the fourth one is idle talk. That's an easy one to get into, but we want to avoid that as well and instead engage in meaningful talk. Then the last set of 3 are, first of all, these 3 relate more to our mind. So the first one is covetousness or jealousy. So instead of that, we rejoice at the things that have happened to other people. And then harmful thoughts. Instead of that, we use helpful intentions to benefit other beings. And then the last one, probably the most challenging to us, is wrong views. That requires that we seek the wisdom of the ultimate truth and the true nature of things, which of course is part of our practice. So now we get into having that background, the actual ceremony itself. If you've already done this, you don't need to do that. And even if you haven't done it, then you can do this. Just one thing is done by getting down on one knee, if you can do that. You don't have to do that if that's something that is difficult. And I know a lot of times for us that can be a real challenge. So if you want to do that, you get down on your knee and then fold your hands together. Okay? And then we recite, and I'm going to give you little bits and pieces of this as we go through, which we will do 3 times. Okay? In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Okay, so now I ask 3 times and you respond with a yes each time. Have you understood the method? Yes. Have you understood the method? Yes. Have you understood the method? Yes. And so then normally we would do the naming ritual right now. If you haven't got a name and would like one, we'll do that. But I'm going to save that till after the class. We'll do it then. It'll be a little bit easier to do. But there are a few comments here that are part of the tradition, and I want to share those with you as well. And so the scriptures list 8 benefits for taking this vow. Now that you've taken the refuge vow, you are officially a Buddhist. This vow is the basis for all other vows, the Bodhisattva vow, various empowerments, and Vajrayana vows. This will protect you from harm. It purifies any past misdeeds that you have committed. And then when you do virtuous actions, you will accumulate great merit. When you die, you will not be reborn in the lower realms. Part of the tradition of viewing these different realms, levels of realms, even though a lot of people look at those not in a literal way, but in a symbolic way, because each of the realms is associated with a specific kind of emotional act. And then you are embarking on an excellent path, the path of Dharma. And finally, ultimately, you will pass beyond all suffering and attain the complete state of Buddhahood. So those are the benefits that come out of this. So you have found protection. You have a reliable guide in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. You have embarked upon a wonderful journey down an excellent path. Taking refuge in the three jewels will not immediately lift you out of samsara, but if you put efforts into your Dharma practice, you will gradually see some improvements in your daily life, and you will eventually pass utterly beyond any sort of misery. This is absolutely wonderful, and you should rejoice for your good fortune. So, I dedicate the merit of this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. I dedicate the merit of this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. I dedicate the merit of this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings. Okay, so that is the ritual for taking refuge. And as I said, we can work on names if you don't have one at the end of this. It's a Tibetan name associated with these. So now we get into our regular class for today. And so last time we were supposed to do chapter 9. We didn't get that part of it done, so we're going to add that in here. So the second training on the path of altruism is meditation. So we have ethics, meditation, and then wisdom. So there are numerous meditation practices associated with the path of altruism. At the core of the path are the 6 perfections, also the 4 immeasurables. There are many other ones, of course, but those 2 sets are really the most dominant and more common. I begin with the 6 perfections, as they include ethics, although they include elements of the complete path all of the way through wisdom. Okay, so it's a whole set, those 6. So the 6 perfections not only provide a transition from our study of ethics on the path of altruism to the meditation training, it also provides context for other meditations and a transition to the training on wisdom. So we look first at those. The main practices of the path of altruism are called the 6 perfections, or 6 paramitas. You may have heard that term. Those 6 are generosity, ethics, patience, persistence, concentration, or shamatha, and wisdom, or vipassana. The classic text on these practices is Shantideva's A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. I highly recommend it. We're not going through all of that in this course, but it is a very helpful book to go in a deep dive into what this is all about. According to legend, Shantideva was a bit of a slacker when it came to his practice, and his fellow monks looked for a way to get rid of him. Not very Buddhist, but sometimes it's best not to question the details of these stories. They set up a challenge for him to give a teaching or leave. Okay, you either do this or you're out of here. Then they built a very high throne for him to sit upon. Unable to climb up, He touched the throne with his hand, and it shrank down to a level that he could get on. And so he did that. Once he was seated, he asked the monks if he should give a teaching on something that had been taught before or something new. And so they requested the latter, and he gave the beloved teaching of this most famous text. Afterwards, he left a stunned Sangha and set out on his own. He says, okay, bye-bye, I've had enough of you guys now. After another fundamental concept of the Path of Altruism is that the two accumulations, so those two are merit and wisdom. You'll hear those words a lot in the tradition as well. So the terms of the 6 perfections, merit refers to the first 5, which are often called skillful means as well, while the wisdom is the 6th one by itself. Contrary to what the term implies, you do not accumulate a specific amount or number of these practices. Rather, the accumulation is done in terms of accomplishments. These are through your progression in the 10 bhumis, which we'll look briefly at later on, which will be described in the wisdom chapter. For now, it is sufficient to be aware that the concept of accumulation is inherent in these practices for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that's the idea, is that we do these things, but we do them not just for ourselves, but particularly for all beings. In many ways, the 6 perfections are another way of framing other teachings given by the Buddha. So while they are new from one view, they are based on very traditional teachings as well. So let's examine each of these components. The first one is the perfection of generosity. There are many potential forms of generosity. The essence of this is the first of these perfections has to do with giving away or letting go. So giving something away, letting go of something that you have. When we get caught up in our attachments, attachment is one of the key issues when it comes to Buddhism that we need to overcome. So when we get caught up in those attachments, we tend to hold on to things, strengthening our ego or self. So ego becomes an increasing problem as that happens, and we allow it to happen, enhancing our discontent or suffering. So generosity helps us to let go of these attachments and thus our ego clinging as well. So there's a close connection there between those two. Generosity may be viewed from several perspectives. One is to pursue a spiritual practice based on an altruistic consideration of others. So thinking about others and our experiences with others. So in this case, you must practice generosity when dealing with others. So there is a sense of selflessness, if you will. We're letting go of our focus on ourselves, our ego, and so forth. You can, of course, give money to other resources. In the East, Buddhism was dependent upon generosity of the population, particularly the wealthy. In the West, although there are certainly examples of great material giving, many practitioners are just getting by financially and may not be in a position to give a great deal. Consequently, many Buddhist organizations struggle to get by, often supporting exclusively by volunteers. We have volunteers. Fortunately, we've had some very generous donors that help us get by well. According to the understanding of karma, those who have much have been blessed by their previous generosity. So the idea of reincarnation, so they've been blessed, the ones who have those resources have been blessed previously, either in this life or in a previous life, the view of Buddhism. They will continue to receive such blessings through their continuing generosity. But it is the intention in most important part of karma, not the amount. Okay? It's your intention. And we talked a little bit about that last time. Intention is the critical factor. Do what you can. The second form of giving that is done by lamas, giving dharma. So teaching, for example. They give us their teachings, they recite prayers, they give blessings. These are given freely. Most do not charge for these teachings. Even through Dharma centers need to request donations in order to cover the costs of their operations. Nearly all explain no one will be turned away for lack of funds. Okay? So if you've received very many invitations to a teaching of that sort, that's almost always a phrase that is included there. But not all by any means. Some of them do have fixed costs, or maybe they only allow the discounts for those who are already monks or nuns, for example. Finally, there is what is called giving protection from fear. In the words of my perfect teacher, it explains that this means helping others in difficulty. While it would refer to material giving as described above, the intention here is other forms of protection such as safety or companionship. Within the tradition of not killing, a Buddhist will also sometimes buy live animals, fish, birds, or other creatures to release them instead of allowing them to be killed for food or sacrifice as an act of generosity. Now, we don't really have those kinds of opportunities around here very much. You don't have a fish market with live fish, for example, that you might have in India and some other places. So these are things that we can imagine doing more so than we can literally doing. As a practice, we can engage in any of these forms of giving. Below, I have included a practice of mentally dedicating your body, life, and wealth to benefit others. So the second of these six is the perfection of ethics. Ethics is avoiding negative actions and engaging in positive actions for the benefit of others. Following the three trainings model for this text, I have already discussed in the Path of Altruism view of ethics: do good or at least do no harm for the benefit of all beings. This is none other than a form of generosity. Thus, for this meditation, we use the ethics of the Bodhisattva vow in the form of a contemplation of meditation on generosity. So we keep in mind that the focus is an act of generosity, although the benefit is also relevant. So this is practice number 5 in the text, generosity and ethics. So we're combining those two together into a single practice. As we have talked about before, we practice twice a day for 1 week or once daily for 3 weeks, and the sessions may be divided into smaller multiple times each day. So again, repetition is really the key, not the frequency, the number of them that we do. So we repeat them over and over again. That helps create the habit of these kind of practices. So in our intention, I do this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings, or it can be a personal intention as well. And then we recite the refuge vow. And then the actual practice is the giving. Settle into the stillness of body, speech, and mind. Reflect on your body, life, and wealth to get a clear understanding of all that might be included here. So you just think about your life. And what have you had? What good things have you had that were available to you, or generosity or actions that you have taken in the past, and so forth. And then imagine each thing in some detail, and then pray that someday you will be free to give them away with no attachment whatsoever. with the pure intention that they will be of benefit for the liberation of other sentient beings. You continue until you feel confident that you will someday be able to give this away. And there's a simple practice that is sometimes done with this, where you imagine something in your hand, or even take something in your hand that you could hold that way, and you give it to yourself on the other hand, and back and forth. But a real simple way for people that are just not used to being generous and to other kind of things. So in this practice, that's kind of what we're doing. We're imagining giving this away, giving that away. Now, if you were to become a monastic, you literally have to give all those things away. Now, you may give it to your family, or you may give it to other people and so forth. But you do have to give away all of those things. And all you have left are just the robes and a couple of other things, a begging bowl and so forth. So you don't have all of those things. The generosity is having given them away. Now, sometimes the center that you're associated with will give you something, but that's to give it to somebody else. So that's part of how this is done. But as lay practitioners, it's more how can we give it away? This is the holiday season. There's lots of opportunities, many requests from different nonprofit organizations, for example, and you can make donations to them as well. So we want to get to the point of feeling confident, and then we conclude by resting naturally in this confidence without thoughts. Okay, so at the end of the practice, we just let go of our thoughts, let go, let be, and sit in stillness for as long as you can. Okay? And then at the end of that, we dedicate the merit. By the merit of this practice, may I attain liberation for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then after meditation throughout the day, look for opportunities of giving what you can, or even just imagine yourself doing that at some point in the future to the benefit of all beings, and then contribute to or continue to remain mindful of all that you think, say, and do throughout the day. So that's the practice, combining generosity and ethics together. So the next one is patience. The perfection of patience. So there is little doubt that we could all benefit from more patience in our lives, whether we experience a flash of anger at being wronged, or the desire for the latest, greatest toy. It's that season, you know. My mother used to tell me, all you want. All you do is want around Christmas time. So some other immediate gratification, we tend to be very impatient society. Instead, we should always be humble, treat everyone with dignity and respect, with loving kindness and compassion, no matter what they say or do toward us. One of the forms of impatience that I see often in my students is to make progress in their practice. This Kempo Kenshin, such and such, happened. So they're giving me an explanation. Patience, excuse me. Patience and the next perfection, persistence, are the most common instructions that I give, especially to beginners. Patience and persistence. So it took the Buddha over 6 years of active to achieve liberation. It took the great Mahasiddhas 12 or more years, even after having been in a monastic community and learning all of this stuff in a monastery for a long period of time. So it takes many repetitions to just rewire your brain. It's a good way to think about it. We practice patience. Here's a simple meditation on patience to help in your daily life as well as your practice. Again, the number of repetitions, and you combine this with the previous practices as well. Set our intention, and then recite the refuge. So the actual practice, settle into stillness of body, speech, and mind. That's usually the way we begin. Reflect on a time when you have been impatient with yourself or others. Inevitably, we have done that once or more. Reimagine that experience and your impatience at that time. What you did and how it felt. Okay? Once you have a clear experience, imagine yourself in the same situation responding with great patience and control. So we remember what it was like when we originally did it. Now we go back and try to reimagine it if you did it in a better way, with patience and being in control. What would that be like? So we continue until we feel confident that we'll be able to respond with patience the next time you face this situation. If you have time, continue with another experience of impatience in your life. So depending on how much time you have, just recall a particular experience and then rethink how to do that one. And you can go on to another one. This is a very common technique that's used by therapists in dealing with issues that are going on in their lives. So very effective. And then conclude by resting naturally in this confidence throughout thoughts. Let go and let be. Sit in stillness as long as you can, once again, or like I said, you can combine, if you have time, you can combine this one with the previous practice, which also combined two, so that gives you 3 elements to work on there together. For post-meditation, throughout the day, look for opportunities to show patience and continue to remain mindful in all that you think, say, and do. So focus during this week on these practices, and then you may alternate between morning and evening. Do one practice in the morning, another one in the evening. We will continue with this list of the 6 perfections next week. Okay. So now for today, we dedicate through the merit of my practice, may I attain liberation for the benefit of all sentient beings. Through the merit of my practice, may I attain liberation for the benefit of all sentient beings. Through the merit of my practice, may I attain liberation for the benefit of all sentient beings. And so next week, we'll look at the next perfection, which is persistence. So we'll continue adding to these as we work through all 6 of those perfections. So if you have any questions that come up during the week, send me an email. I'll be happy to reply and help you with whatever kind of things that you have that come up as a part of that. And pray for peace. Thank you.